future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Thank you, and thank you for tuning in to Live, Love, Thrive, Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. You know, every week we have such incredible women. Next week I wanted to mention we're going to have Melanie McGraw, who is the founder of Monk Provisions, which is like the hottest new botanical drink on the market. And we're also going to be talking to Allison Robertson, who's a very accomplished actress, and she's also an amazing coach. And she's going to share with us her very moving story about how she adopted her gay son. So you won't want to miss any of our episodes, so definitely be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Just look us up under 360 Karma, Live, Love, Thrive, and tell your friends about it so that you don't miss any episodes and we can keep telling amazing women's stories. Speaking of amazing women, on today's show, we have the incredible Haylee Vance.
Hi.
And she is a very remarkable television producer and the executive director of Together We Will LA. And then along with her, we have Selina Vazquez, who also is the director of Advocacy for that same organization. And then Selina also is the president-elect for Planned Parenthood Young Professionals, as well as works full-time for the Red Cross, if you can imagine. So later in the show, we're also going to meet the amazing Wendy Silvers, who is the founder of Million Mamas Movement. So we're going to be talking with her. But first up, please give a warm welcome to Haylee and Selina. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
Good. Good to have you both on today. I know you have so much spare time, and I mean, it is just amazing to me how many things that the two of you do. So I want to talk about all of them, and I want to talk about how and why you do all these incredible things. I always say, if you want to get something done, ask a busy woman, right? Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? So tell me, let's start with you, Haylee.
Okay.
So I know you're in television production. Mm-hmm. You do some amazing work for like Oxygen mm-hmm. and some other networks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you end up with being in television entertainment, working in this nonprofit space? I want to go back to a story you shared with me about your childhood.
Yes.
And so, because for you, it started really young.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah. You were in like grade school?
I was in third grade. Yeah, I've always been the kind of person to stand up for things that I think are right and stand against things that I believe are wrong, mm-hmm. Much to the chagrin of the authority figures in my life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But in third grade, the story that you referenced, we had a class that was children with disabilities that had recess the same time as my third grade class. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that they did not participate in recess. They always had to stay behind and hang out in the classroom and were able to go outdoors.
The handicapped children.
The handicapped children.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very unfair, mm-hmm. and I inquired why that was the case. And
you were in third grade.
I was in third grade.
Oh my gosh, you go, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they can't go outside and be in the fresh air and socialize with the other kids. And the teacher said, well, they're different. Okay, well, you know what? So what that they're different? Let's figure out a way to make this work. Right. And so we ended up instituting a buddy system where mm-hmm. A child from the mainstream classroom would pair up with a child with disabilities, and if they were able, would go outside and engage in activities over recess that they could.
I love that.
Partake in.
And this was on your suggestion that they did this. Mm-hmm. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Talk about born this way.
Yeah, exactly.
and so, do you remember any of the children that you got paired up with by any chance?
I do. I remember a girl named Lisa, and we played board games a lot because she didn't want to play on the playground. And we actually went through school together all the way through high school and graduated together. So I didn't even think about that until you just brought it up. But yeah, it was great. We remained friends throughout. So it was a really great experience. Obviously for the kids in the mainstream class, but with the for the kids with disabilities as well. It was great.
I think I bet you anything anything, that one thing that you did impacted their lives forever. You know, sometimes we don't think about how those little things that we do, you know, it seems like even a small thing at the present time, but sometimes it impacts people's entire lives. And so, you know, obviously it did yours, because then you went on to continue to want to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always the kid in high school who was starting petitions if I thought something was, you know, was not right. And then with this election, I decided that rather than just speaking out when I think something needs to be talked about and supporting certain, you know, particular issues, that I really needed to start an organization.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So Pantsuit Nation is the beginnings of the organization that you guys now have a lot to do with, which is Together We Will, LA, which is in many different cities. So I know if people are in another city, it would actually be twwusa.org.
Yep, exactly.
But if they're here in LA, it's Together We Will, spelled out, LA.org. So if you want to get involved. And so this is like the activist arm of Pantsuit Nation? Yeah,
so Pantsuit Nation started as a way for people to share stories and come together and find support through the election.
Right, and it has like millions of
4 million
members, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. And we still do maintain a Los Angeles Pantsuit chapter as well.
I look at it.
Yeah.
Great stories. It's a great story sharing community. Yeah.
And the action comes out of the stories for Pantsuit Nation. For Together We Will, our action comes from other places. So it comes from what's going on with the current administration, what's going on in Congress and the media, that sort of thing.
And one interesting thing I thought you said to explain to me was that this organization is, and you can address this as the director of advocacy, I'm sure, is that it's not so much anti-Trump as it is anti-issues that you find are not right. Is that a proper explanation?
Pro-equality. So in whatever form that may be challenged, whether it's women's issues, whether it's cultural and racial issues, any way that gets challenged, we feel like everyone is, or we believe everyone is equal and should have equal opportunities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't imagine that anybody wouldn't think that.
Right.
But that's me.
We agree.
Yeah.
We agree. And thankfully, we found a lot of people who agree as well, which is kind of was a saving grace in the aftermath of the election, is so many people who said, you know what? We're still going to stand our ground. We're still going to fight for what's right. And I mean, we saw it at LAX. We've seen it. We saw it at the Women's March. Countless times.
People are coming out and upping their energy and their participation like never before. And I think, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that I think that's the one good thing that's come out of all of this is that, you know, people are rising up and people are getting active and becoming activists. So I think what your group is doing is great. You're 400,000 strong. And I know your biggest chapter is in Southern California, right?
LA.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So now, so I know you do television production, which I know is like a really all-encompassing job. Yes. What kind of programs are you working on Oxygen?
So I recently produced a project called the Prancing Elites Project, which was about a gay transgendered Black dance troupe in Mobile, Alabama.
Oh my gosh!
So you can imagine
I want to see that.
Yeah, it was a great show. 2 seasons on Oxygen Media, and you can imagine in Mobile they faced a lot of adversity for being a gay group, for being a male dance troupe, and for being Black.
Right.
And so the stories that we told on the show celebrated their talents and everything that they did to kind of call or bring awareness to men in the dancing community. They perform a kind of dance called J-setting. But it also brought to light the adversity that they faced still in 2015 is when it was.
Especially in Alabama. Right. And so what's the takeaway from that? Is there any way to improve it? Or, I mean, that's why there's groups like Together We Will, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The takeaway is that we can never stop fighting and we can never stop sharing stories being aware of what's going on, and looking out for other people, the marginalized groups who need help and need protection.
I bet you were
support.
so glad to use your producing talents on
Yes.
something that was, something meaningful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because we know that there's a lot of programming out there that
Yes.
isn't. We won't say which ones.
Right. And
We will not be
I'm
naming
freelance,
names.
so
Yeah.
sometimes I have to take projects that
Yeah.
are.
Yep, we understand. We won't hold you accountable.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
it's refreshing. And
Yeah.
Oxygen does actually have a lot of programming that focuses on women's empowerment and marginalized groups. So
I've heard that and more, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Well, we applaud them for
Yeah.
that. And Selina, wow, I don't know how you do everything you do, but I know you're the director of advocacy for Together We Will LA. You also work with the Red Cross.
Yeah.
And you are the president-elect for the Planned Parenthood Young Professionals. I want to talk about all of those, but first I want to also touch on your background, because just like Haylee, it seems that your background lent itself to what you're doing today. So I know you were telling me when you were young, you took a trip to the UN, a school trip, and that kind of impacted the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what grade it was, but we were getting a tour of the UN, and we got to, I don't know if it's still there, but it was almost an art exhibit, kind of is how they framed it, that showed defense spending for countries all around the world. Mm-hmm. And if just the top tier of those countries cut their defense by 10%, we would completely eliminate world hunger.
Wow.
And that was just mind-blowing to me.
Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing, not to have anybody going hungry in this world?
Yeah.
I mean, to think that we would rather spend it on fighting.
Mm-hmm. Or not even fighting, preparing to fight in
or
case
preparing
we have
to fight. Yeah, right.
Because so much of it was, at that point, this was pre so many things that we now are facing.
And isn't it true that the U.S. spends more than anybody?
Oh, by a lot.
And by a lot. And now, for some reason, we think we need to spend more. While we do have all these homeless people and all these situations where people aren't eating, including our children. Many children are starving. I can't see how we weigh that. But, it is activists and more people, and I'm going to say more women running for office, only because a women's perspective is needed at the political table in a big way. We need more Congress and Senate, and we're only 15% of the Congress and Senate, I believe. And so we have to absolutely boost that so that we have both energies at the table. Both bring something very valuable to the table, but it needs to be evened out. And this is one of the things that I think women tend to be more sensitive to, the starving children and schooling and things like that are not being represented right now in our government, in our country anyway. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, agreed. 100%. Yeah.
And so what you guys are doing is working toward things like that. So you're affiliated, I know, with Planned Parenthood, which everybody is talking about, being on the chopping block, and it's a very serious situation. Your Young Professionals group does fundraising for them, yes?
We do fundraising. We do awareness raising events. It's a very busy month. I believe tomorrow is actually the voting on the bill that would cut funding. So it's a very stressful week. And as the Young Professionals group, it's a bunch of people across many different disciplines who believe in Planned Parenthood, support the mission, and are just really committed to doing everything we can to help out. So sometimes that means putting on a fundraiser, which we do really awesome and fun ones like drag queen bingo and things like that. Sometimes it's going out into the neighborhoods. There's a relatively new clinic in West Hollywood that we're still helping to promote and let people know is there.
Because many of these services have already been abolished in some states, right? And that's a scary thing. And I think I like to use this platform to educate people. And I think some of the viewers might have this falsehood that, maybe their religion, they don't believe in, let's say, abortion, and they just associate Planned Parenthood with that. But they don't realize that it's also so much more. It provides health care and all sorts of things, preventative health care, and I'll let you fill me in. Yeah.
I mean, some of the biggest things Planned Parenthood is doing are cancer screenings, which are people of all ages, or helping provide birth control, which, hey, if you have birth control, you don't have to, you never wind up pregnant in the first place. And they're also really great at responding to the community. So I believe last year we started partnering with Martin Luther King Hospital because the community said there isn't enough prenatal care available.
Right.
So now Planned Parenthood's working with the hospital to provide prenatal care.
Right.
In Antelope Valley, there's a clinic where we offer primary care.
Right.
Because there weren't enough primary care doctors in the community.
Right.
So as an organization, they're really great at communicating with the community, being partners with the community, and just filling whatever needs they can.
Right. That's a beautiful thing. And I wanted people to know that. But, that's why we need to set religion aside and look at humanity and say, this is, if you saw that movie, Moonlight, it's a perfect example of how someone is born into a situation. And so when people are of privilege, they need to understand that some people weren't born into that. And so these are the types of services that help people that weren't born into that privilege. It's not their choice. They were born into that situation, especially the children. Do they have an opportunity to hopefully move out of that? Yes, that part is a choice. But where people are born into is not. And so that's what people have to keep in mind. If they want to use their religion in that capacity, it's to use their heart to care about humanity. And so I applaud you that you're working with that organization as well. And that's all volunteer work, by the way, the two things I just mentioned that you're doing. So let's talk about you also. Your full-time real job is to work with Red Cross, right?
Yeah, I am actually relatively new there. I'm in my second week at the Red Cross and still just blown away. I feel like every day I learn about new things the Red Cross has been doing for 100 years now that I just never realized.
Wow.
From preventative care to, there's a really big Prepare LA movement to
now,
disaster
Prepare LA is
response.
for in case of earthquakes. Is that what that is, or not really?
I'm not quite sure everything it encompasses.
Yeah.
I know it does involve earthquake preparation.
Right.
But they also are doing things like putting smoke alarms in because the top thing they respond to as an organization are home fires.
Oh, wow.
Which you don't really think about. But if everything you own is burned down, what do you do? Where do you go?
Right.
If you're privileged, like you were saying, you can check into a hotel. But what if you're not?
Right.
What if you don't have a credit card to check into a hotel?
Right, right.
So the Red Cross is going in there. They're helping find you shelter, whether that's it's a large building and they're making a shelter or finding a hotel for you to go to or things, and pretty much staying with you and helping you figure out what comes next.
Wow. So what do you two do in your spare time? For anybody who's listening and not volunteering, I want them to hear the two of you's stories because everybody can make time to volunteer.
Absolutely.
And you just have to find which one resonates with you, right? And so for you guys, I know it's Together We Will. Now, tell me some upcoming events with Together We Will that people might want to get involved with.
We're going to be going to the ACA March tomorrow, so we encourage everybody to come out.
Is that downtown? Or?
It is, yeah, it's downtown.
Wasn't the Women's March amazing?
It really was. It was very inspiring.
Gosh. Yes, it was. How many people were there?
750,000.
Yeah,
it's quite
impressive. I think they were expecting like 50 to 100. It was kind of amazing. I know we have a picture of that. Yeah.
The largest single-day protest in history.
In history, yeah, and around the world, millions, yeah. I mean, that says something about that the consciousness of the entire world is a feminine uprising.
Yep.
And when I say that, I include the men because there's so many men feminists. Half the people there at the Women's March were men. So
we're all in this together.
Yeah, we are in this together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the
we
March
also
tomorrow.
and we also have monthly advocacy training events. So if people are new to activism and they want to get kind of the 101 on how to be involved, we've partnered with the National Council of Jewish Women LA in the Fairfax district. And every month there are opportunities for people from the community, Together We Will members, but even community members at large to come and learn how to get more involved. So our most recent one was last Sunday, and there was a panel of activist experts talking about rallies and protest, safety, effectiveness, knowing your rights. So we have, the next one is April 2nd, and it focuses on human trafficking and how you can get involved in stopping April 2nd.
Boy, that's near and dear to my heart. My friend Deborah Alessi has an organization called Face Forward. She's been on the show, and they help reconstruct the faces of women who've been domestically battered and also trafficked. and it's that otherwise couldn't afford it, obviously. So wonderful organization, Face Forward. They help them on the inside and out. Yeah. Oh, wow. So I think there's two type of people that would be listening. One is somebody who says, you know what, I want to be an activist, but I don't know how. So to come to
Together We
Will LA.org, or if they're in another city, they could start their own.
Yep.
TWWUSA.org. Okay, wonderful.
You can also search for us on Facebook too.
Oh, beautiful.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's a landing page you can go to join the organization.
Great. And this way, they can come learn how to be an activist, because I do think some people are like, I want to do this, I don't know where to begin.
Right.
And then we have our other people that are kind of on the sidelines saying, I'll let somebody else do it. And I think we don't have any room for that right now.
No.
I mean, we need everyone. There's no joke in that saying, together, we're stronger together. And everybody's got to play their part now, because you can't sit on the sidelines and say what happened when everything collapses.
Right.
Instead, we all have to find whatever organization it is that we want to be putting time into and start making a difference. I mean, isn't that why we're here?
Yes, absolutely. And if you don't have, people say they don't have time, and I totally understand that, but there are things that you can actually do from home. You can donate to support organizations that you believe in.
Right.
There's phone banking. You can do virtual phone banking from your living room and, call to support issues. But also, people need to vote. So we just had our municipal elections.
Yes.
And we had 12% pathetic voter turnout.
Yep.
So it's not just joining nonprofit organizations and fighting. It's being
whatever.
Engaged in civics and being a responsible citizen and voting.
Right. And we need to elect more women into local. I've had Lindsay Horvath and Lauren Meister on, who are both city officials in the city of West Hollywood. But we need more women in politics, and the only way is if women get out, and men who support them, to vote for them in local elections. That's how we'll end up with more in the Senate and Congress, and one day,
yes,
the big position. So, what's next for you two?
I just wanted to add one thing when we were talking about the people who may not know where to get started. A lot of these volunteer-based organizations have needs that are kind of all-encompassing. So if you're a graphic designer, say, you may be able to do something that's right up your alley.
What a great idea.
It's not necessarily that you have to phone bank or go out and vote.
Right.
What are your skills? Contact an organization you believe in.
Right.
Let them know what your skills are, because the odds are they can use your help.
Right.
Absolutely.
If you're
That's a
a
very
tech
good point.
person or filmmaker, whatever,
Web
that's
design,
a great
anything.
idea.
Yeah.
Do
Very
what
good
you
point.
love, but for something that you care about.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that. I
Absolutely.
love that. I've always been a big proponent of that. Well, thank you both for being
Thank
on here
you.
and squeezing us into your schedules. And
course.
you're just both such amazing women, and just keep doing incredible work. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having us.
And we will be right back with Wendy Silvers. Stay tuned.
The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the year of the woman, and we are stronger together. The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women.
And we are back with Wendy Silvers. Hi, Wendy. How are
Hi,
you?
Catherine. I'm doing great. Thank you so much
yeah.
for the opportunity to dialogue with you.
Yeah, and we had a great time at the Women's
did.
March where our
We
booths
did.
were next to each other for Million Mamas Movement,
Yeah.
which I can't wait to talk about.
Thank you.
First, I want to talk a little bit about you and your background and how you ended up founding this amazing organization.
Thank you.
So you're from New York?
I am.
You grew up in New York, New Jersey?
New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And went back actually after. So I lived as a little girl in Long Island, and then we moved to New Jersey, and then I went back and stayed for 23 years
Oh
in
my
the
gosh!
city. Yeah.
Wow, in the city. Oh, I used to live in the city. I loved it before I
Where
lived
did
in
you
L.A. I lived in Midtown. Yeah, I loved it.
I lived for so many places. I lived uptown, downtown, midtown,
Yeah.
west side.
I
but
lived
my-
east side, west side. Yep.
I actually we went back, my family went back, and we went to the building that I lived at, the last building that I lived at,
Yeah.
for 9 years. And my name is still on the intercom.
That's funny.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, maybe they're expecting you to come back.
I loved the apartment.
Yeah.
It was great.
But I love L.A.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I love LA.
So your upbringing, and I always go back to this with people because it always feels like something in their background brings them to the great work that they're doing today, and yours
Themes.
seems like that. So I know you had I know you called it growth opportunities with your
Yeah.
mom, which
Yes.
is a cute way to put it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you start an organization that's for moms and their daughters, right?
Children.
And children.
And the global family.
And children.
Yeah.
And I think it came from, it sounds like, you had this challenging relationship with mom, and so you wanted to create something where people had that close connection that maybe you didn't feel like,
Well,
or because you're such a motherly type of person, right?
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's it.
Yeah. And you were kind of missing that, so you.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's funny because my mom loved me a lot,
Of
and
course.
I loved my mom.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. It just, I think my mom was tortured, and she just was not a happy person, and
Right.
so her ability to be the mom that I needed was
Right.
not very available to her.
Right.
More
What do you
so
think that came from for her?
her childhood. I mean, the imprint of childhood lasts a lifetime.
Absolutely.
And some people can transcend it, and
Yes.
some people it takes
Carry
them
it-
out.
Yeah, they
So-
keep it with them all the time. Yeah,
yeah.
It's so tough when people do that because you could see that they're not their past,
Right.
and they need to enjoy the beauty of the present. But sometimes they ruin the beauty of the present because they can't let that past go, and that's such a hard thing to watch, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And that's why the past, the looking back is the past, looking forward is the future, and that's why the present's called the present.
Yeah.
Right?
And it is
It's
present.
a gift.
It's a gift.
To be present in your life and to presence
Yes.
people and things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was your journey from New York? How did you end up here in Los Angeles?
Oh, it's a great question. So I actually was in the entertainment industry for almost 13 years. I was a celebrity and film publicist, and then
Was that fun?
it was great.
Yeah.
It was really fun, and it was a lot of hard work.
Yes.
Enormous hard
Right,
work.
right.
And I learned a
And
lot.
who did you work with?
Oh gosh, I worked on the film The Dead. I worked on the film To Protect Mother Earth. I was always very engaged in social justice.
Oh, I love
I
that.
worked on. I was involved with Dirty Dancing. I was involved with
Oh, my
Top
gosh.
Gun. I was involved with Heathers. I was involved with.
Didn't you love
the names.
Dirty Dancing? I love
Yeah,
that
it was
movie. That's
great.
one of my
It
favorites.
was great. I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember. There's so many films that I worked on. I can't actually bring them up in this moment.
Yeah.
But I worked on a lot, and I worked with a lot of celebrities. And ironically, at the Women's March,
Yeah.
I was doing B-roll just for Facebook Live, and I walked up, and this woman had lamb chop. And when I was 20 and a half years old, Sherry Lewis was my client.
Oh,
and
I
so
loved her.
I loved her too.
Yeah,
and
we all grew up with her.
Yeah, exactly.
We're dating
right?
ourselves.
Exactly. And so
If you remember her, then you're in our boat.
Exactly. It was so funny because I walked up and this woman and I said, "Oh my gosh, Mallory," and it was her daughter.
Oh my
and,
gosh,
and I
really?
knew, and her dad, Jeremy Tarcher, was an amazing publisher who, when I was doing PR for Sherry, asked me to work for him.
Yeah.
For his publishing company. But long story short.
Well, that's great. Her daughter's an activist, obviously. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And your daughter's an activist.
She is, and a humanitarian for sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so nice. She's following in your footsteps, and
She's so her own person.
Yeah.
I just adore. For me, I'm her steward.
yeah.
And she is my teacher. She is just so powerful, and I am so grateful.
Kids
that
these
she's
days
my mom.
are so much
She's
more.
my daughter. Yeah.
So the kids these days are so much more evolved, aren't they? I think maybe because of all the information that they're getting on social media and internet, and I mean, I don't know why, but I'm thinking that's why. And the whole consciousness of the planet, I believe, is lifting up, even though
the
you
highest
couldn't
it's ever
recognize that right now with
Well,
the
actually,
political
but you
climate,
know-
but everybody surrounding that, like outside of that. Yeah.
I want to speak to that, though.
Yeah.
Because what I believe is that everything ultimately is happening for the highest and greatest good.
Yes, I think so.
But and the structures that are dying are the old patriarchal structures that really didn't work and weren't sustainable. And instead of going out with a whimper, they're going out with a bang.
A bang, right.
And people have been asleep at the wheel. They
Right.
have been living in, well, they're going to handle it.
Right.
I don't have to do that. I'm too tired. I'm too this. I don't need to get involved. And really what happened is everybody just took the responsibility
Right.
and said somebody else will handle it. And all of a sudden it was a huge wake-up call.
Right.
So-
And had our girl won, which would have been really cool, I think people would have kept their complacency. And so this is like, people are just like really rising
it's
up out of their comfort
important.
zone now to be activists, people that aren't normally involved, I believe.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, they're over-medicating our children. They're over-vaccinating our children. They're taking away parents' rights. They're taking away women. I mean, they're
Women's
trying
rights,
to take
gay
away
rights,
women's
you
rights,
name it.
gay rights. They're trying to. It's like we're regressing,
Yes.
so that we can move forward.
Yes.
Because if this wasn't happening, we would be in complacency or
Complacency,
even
yeah.
apathy. And now what's
Yeah.
happened is this is what I believe it's a heralding call for people to get involved.
And I know you're affiliated with a group that I just love, which is Michael Beckwith's
Yeah.
Agape.
Yes.
I'm a big follower of his, and I love their practices. And so I know you're a
I
practitioner
am.
there.
I'm also in ministerial school.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I remember something he said one time, it stuck with me about if things are like really horrendous, horrific, and he was talking about in your life, but it could be in the world, that to be thankful for it, because it means when you get to the other side, things are going to be so great. You're going through a growing pain.
Absolutely.
You're going through like a juxtaposition. And so that's what's happening with the world.
It's huge, and
Yeah.
we really are being called to wake up.
Yeah.
To not only, I mean, that's one
I
of the
mean, and when I
things-
say we get
yeah.
to the other side of it, it'll be better. I mean, if everybody participates and it steps into their highest self and does what they're meant to be doing here.
Well, that
and I
is-
think that's what people are starting to feel, that knock at the door of, oh, I have a purpose of being here. What is it?
And I matter.
Yeah.
My voice matters.
Yes.
I matter. What I do, where I spend my money, the choices I make, the
Yep.
things I say.
Yep.
It matters
Do I
because
vote?
it does. The ripple. I heard you talking about that. It's the ripple.
It's the ripple.
It's the ripple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with Agape? And tell me a little bit about
Oh, well,
that.
I've been on a spiritual path since I'm 17.
Right.
And one thing that you don't know.
So you started early.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing you don't know is I'm also an intuitive and a spiritual medium. And so I came to LA after I got out of PR, and I decided I needed to explore all these different parts of my being
Right.
that I wasn't really honoring when I was doing that.
Right.
And so I became certified as a hypnotherapist, and I learned how to do readings for people. And I came to LA. I had just produced and written a show at Ensemble Studio Theater in New York, and I'm like, I'm going to write because I'm a writer. I'm going to write.
That's what
and,
feeds your soul, the writing?
Yeah.
Partly?
Yeah, speaking, writing,
Yeah.
praying.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to
Praying you can write and speak.
yeah,
No, I'm just
exactly,
kidding.
exactly. Praying before I write. Speak. But so I came out here, and I thought I'm going to work on my creativity and my spiritual life, and my husband's.
And that's why you came to LA, to focus
Well, no,
on that?
my
Oh,
husband
oh.
and I were engaged,
Yeah.
and we decided we wanted to live here to start a family. So
Beautiful.
And he's also a singer-songwriter.
Oh, cool.
So we came out here, and he went to his undergrad was LACC, and one of his classmates happened to be somewhere where we were at, and she met me, and she's like, I'm taking you somewhere. Within 5 minutes of talking to me, she's like, I'm taking you somewhere. And it was Agape on Choir Sunday. And it was literally 3 weeks after I moved to Los Angeles. And I had been invited to move to LA.
I think someone invited me just weeks after I moved here. Yeah.
I had been invited to move to LA by a woman at Rogers & Cowan in Los Angeles, because I worked at Rogers & Cowan. No, I was working at Gucci when she invited me. And I was 20 years old, and I was like, no, I don't think I could do that. And here I am, fast forward.
Yeah.
And I went to Agape, and
Sitting
that
here
was
in
it.
Hollywood on a radio show.
Yeah, exactly.
Who'd have thunk? When we think we know where things are going, right?
Yeah.
Life is what happens
It's
when
a
we're busy
mystery.
planning it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So now you've been here in LA for a long time.
17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
And so you've been with Agape that long.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you love most about Agape?
Love and acceptance. I mean, and also the rainbow.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband's mixed, and but not mixed up, and so I love that it's about oneness. For me, that's what it's about.
Right. Yeah, I love that it's very non-judgmental, and you know,
and it's
all
truth.
all religions, all ethnicities, everybody's welcome in that space, and it's a beautiful spiritual space for sure.
It is. Yeah.
And what, being a practitioner, what's been the most rewarding thing about that? And if people don't know at home what a practitioner is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So a practitioner is somebody who goes through matriculates through classes, and the classes are universal principle. There's universal principles that exist, like the universal laws that you can't change them. They're immutable, they're eternal, and also classes that have to do with metaphysics and quantum physics and prayer, because prayer is one of our modalities, but it's affirmative prayer, and it's not based on begging or beseeching. It's a prayer that's very affirmative and inspiring, and it's spiritual therapy. It's spiritual evolution. So some of the greatest joys that I've had are watching people recognize who they are.
Right.
That there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
They may have things that have happened. They may have, done certain things or strategies that they've used that haven't been effective, but there's nothing wrong. And I get to midwife that.
Right. And so even like moving back to the conversation we had earlier, helping people let go of their past.
Limiting beliefs.
He always says, you're not the horse you rode in on.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember Oprah saying, you'll be happy once you decide to let go of trying to change your past. Because it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. So instead of trying to change your past, just accept it, take the lessons from it, and bless it and move on. Because those things happen to you probably for some reason that you're calling. I always find that people, as dark as some of their things are, or even if it's not, whatever obstacles they've had, usually, almost always lead to what they're meant to be doing here in life in some capacity.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know what your calling is, you pretty much look at the gifts that you have, the background you have, what challenges you had, and then you can probably help those people that have had the same challenges.
Yes, everything happens for us, not to us. I mean, there's different stages of growing and evolving. And Michael Beckwith created what he believes, and so the first stage is the victim, and then it's the manifester, and then it's something happens through you, and then it's as you. So it's 4 different stages, and so a lot of times in our world, people are caught up in the victim. Everything's happening to me, and I can't get out of it. And what's really helpful is to remember, like you said, to look at, I call it the theme. Look at the through line in your life.
Right.
What are the issues that awaken you? What's the thing that gets you going? Or what's the thing that you've triumphed over?
Right. Yeah, and be
and
proud
how can you
of
be
that.
of service? Like that's how may what's mine to do? How may I be of greatest service?
Right, and I do believe that we create our fate. That we definitely the choices we make on a daily basis, whether we're eating the right thing or exercising or meditating or taking actions toward our goals, helping other people, being kind, loving people, not being judgmental. If you're doing all those things, you're going to have a happy, empowering life. And all of those things are a choice. And they're not even a hard choice. You know, it's so simple to take care of your mind, body, soul, and to be kind to others and help people and connect them. It's so easy. It is just a simple choice, right?
It's simple, and I think the human condition makes it complicated.
Right.
And
we get our humanness in the way. We put up
Yes.
the excuses or the obstacles
Yes.
that aren't even really there. It's just perception.
It is
right?
all perception. And
Yeah.
I love this. There was this woman, Mama Lissa, who I love so much, and she was my practitioner and a teacher to me. And she would say, "Get my bloated nothingness out of the way." and I'm not making light, because
Right.
people have had great challenges to
sure.
overcome,
Right.
and that's been the experience. But it doesn't. It's not a life sentence. It's not.
Right.
We can evolve out of everything. If Nelson Mandela can come out of prison and be a place of forgiveness, then
Right.
so can we. But we need help. We all need help sometimes to get ourselves past a certain point.
And I believe that's where a support and community comes in. And that's what I like about organizations like Agape or others.
Yeah.
Just people got to find their people.
Absolutely.
Their like-minded crowd. But having a community, really they show that the happiest people are people that have a social community around them and
Yeah.
a support group. So people have to go out and find that.
Yes.
People that resonate with them. That's not a lot of drama and toxicity, but actually love and support, right?
Yeah.
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 And it definitely, everybody has challenges. I don't think anybody escapes this life without challenges, so I don't mean to make light of that.
Right.
But on any given day, there's certainly a lot of days that we don't make the right choices, and it does impact the outcome, and we have to realize what part we play in that. And
Yes.
so it is pretty easy to choose those right things to take care of mind, body, soul, and helping other people.
Absolutely.
And that comes into the volunteering that we were just talking about with the other ladies.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing to go out and volunteer for one of these organizations. I've had everybody on here from, of course, your organization, Million Mamas Movement, to the Miracle Project, which is helping kids with autism.
Yes.
Face Forward, that helps women that have been domestically abused or trafficked. There's so many out there. It's just a matter of making sure that while you're here on the planet, you're giving back in some way, like you said, being of service.
Right.
And so if everybody leaves this program today, I hope they at least reach out to some organization today that they can help in some capacity, either with their talents or donation. But I always say getting involved in some actual way is even more gratifying than a donation. But a donation is obviously great, because these organizations wouldn't run without them.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Million Mamas Movement, what was your idea to launch this? And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it wasn't my idea.
Okay. That's honest.
I've been a counselor and a coach since 92, when I started seeing clients for hypnotherapy and then doing readings. But when I became a practitioner in 2012, I felt very called, after having given birth to my daughter at home, and I was assisting other moms. And so I felt very called to really explore parenting from a heart-centered, empathic, connected place. And so I began teaching. I began teaching that. And then after almost, I want to say a decade, I was like, I've worked with couples, I work with families, I work with moms, with women, and I kept saying, what is mine to do? How may I really, what I wanted was to be of greater service.
Right.
How may I be of greater service? And Michael Beckwith, who's my mentor, has a process called the life visioning process, which is a meditative process to access the intuitive faculties within you to learn what is the highest and greatest vision for your life.
I love that.
So I include that. I have a meditation. It's so funny you talk. I have a meditation practice. I have a prayer practice. I eat superfoods because I think they are the bomb. And I do my best to do self-care. But in my sitting one day after, a meditation and my life visioning process, I went to the gym and I was on the elliptical going back and forth. And I think the news was on, something was happening. And then across my awareness, I heard Million Mamas March. I was like, oh, you mean the Million Man March? Because I told you my father-in-law, who was a civil rights leader, took my husband to the Million Man March. So I sat there and I thought, I was going back and forth thinking, that's really interesting. And then I heard it again. And then I heard it again, and then I heard Washington, D.C.
It does happen that way, doesn't it?
It
when
does.
You're trying to think of a name for a book, a movie, whatever I've been involved with, it just all of a sudden it'll come to you one day.
Exactly.
Yeah, that little...
Well, and I just thought, wow, this is really bizarre. So I got done. And what I've learned as being, obedient, quote unquote, to spirit is that when something comes my way and I hear it once, I pay attention. When I hear it twice, I know there's a message that's wanting to be delivered. When I hear it 3 times, I say yes.
Yes.
So I said yes.
Yeah.
And I called Michael Beckwith and I'm like, this is what I heard. And then I started planning a march in Washington, D.C. We had the monument. I can't even tell you, like all these things falling in place.
Right.
And what I was told within a week of receiving this information about Million Mamas March was that it was a movement. It was not a one day. It wasn't a one-off. It
wasn't a march. It was a movement.
It was to engage and empower mothers and others to stand in that sovereignty as the mother.
Yes.
And make sure that all children are well, all mothers are well. And one of our missions is every mama, every child safe, fed, housed, clothed, loved, educated, and celebrated.
Now, someone might say, that's a huge endeavor.
It is.
But don't you think it takes all of these different organizations with people that are attracted to the various ones?
Exactly.
Everybody finds what
theirs
they feel
to do.
drawn to.
Yes.
And collectively,
yes,
they all make a huge difference.
Completely true.
Yeah.
And that's if
because I made a film
addressed,
about gay marriage and people are like, well, one film can't change things. And I said, well, collectively, enough of the films about gay marriage could change things.
Right,
and sure enough, it educated people and it did change things. So every little one plays a part in the whole big puzzle.
Yes. I just watched a movie last night about Laurel Hester, the New Jersey cop. Do you know who I'm talking about? And her partner Stacy, and her dying of cancer and wanting to have the pension go to Stacy.
Right.
It was such a powerful movie.
It was.
It was so powerful. So that's wonderful that you did that.
Right. I mean, I agree, and it's one of my proudest accomplishments, and I'm always so glad to be a part of something so much greater than myself. And that's what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you guys have been involved in? I know we have some pictures of you speaking, and you've been at you spoke
1 Billion
at
Rising.
1 Billion Rising,
Yes,
which I
yes.
know Lindsay Horvath
Yes,
is a
she's
big part
so
of.
wonderful.
Yeah,
She's wonderful.
Yeah, 1 Billion Rising. Want to tell people what that's about?
1 Billion Rising is really about activating and energizing women's rights.
Right.
Yeah. And specifically on Valentine's Day, V-Day.
V-Day.
Instead of vagina monologues. It's connected, but it's, V for the VJJ.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's
Yeah,
great.
there's so many women and people. It's mostly women running the nonprofits, I've noticed. With all the people I have on the show, it's amazing to me how many women are creating unbelievable nonprofits. It's a very feminine energy uprising right now, and that's a great thing. It's a great thing for the planet.
Yes, because that's one of the awarenesses that I've had is that, first of all, the feminine leads. Like if you look back in terms of sacred texts and mystical information, it's not either or, it's both. But the woman leads, and the masculine is meant to hold that container. That's why back in the day when we were in villages, the men rode on the outskirts of the village and kept the women and the children safe, or those that identified as male, or those that wanted to be involved. But that's what they did. And the women were the ones that were the medicine women and the midwives and the entrepreneurs and the ones that cared for the babies and herbalists. And I mean,
we've gotten away from the natural alignment, but just like when we feel as a human being, we know if we're aligned or we're not aligned. We know right now the planet is not aligned, but like you said in the beginning, I think this is a huge time for a juxtaposition that's happening in a big way for us to get aligned. And isn't that wonderful that we're headed in that way? Yeah. And I can't emphasize enough to our listeners that everyone listening makes a difference in helping create that positive outcome.
Absolutely. I do.
Yeah.
I've started doing, on Mondays, I do a meditation and reflection called A Mother's Heart. And so what came through this week as I was closing are these words that you matter, your voice matters, you're not alone.
I love that.
Yeah. It's really important to remember
and everybody
that.
deserves to be seen and heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
They can find you at millionmamasmovement.org.
Yes, and it's MAMAS for mamas.
Okay,
and
great.
you can find me also on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Mama Wendy Silvers. And please contact me. Yeah,
I love
We're
it,
doing
Mama
a lot.
Wendy.
Yeah, we have an event on May 13th. So yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for doing the awesome work. We need more women like you doing that. And I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will be back next week with more incredible guests. And just make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.
Peace and blessings.